Welcome to ARK For Dummies. Today's topic is the gacha. In this video, we're going to be going over all of the information about gachas, how they work, and how best to use them. If you're looking for a specific topic, you can check down below at the timestamps and click around. But all I ask you to do is that if you enjoy this video, you find it helpful, please just drop a like. It costs you nothing, and it helps me greatly. Anyway, let's get into it. The gacha is a creature that was first introduced in the Extinction DLC in 2018, and has since changed the game in a major way. This creature allows players to farm multiple items through crystals it produces. Nowadays, gachas can also be found on the Genesis Part 2 map. On Extinction, you can find gachas in the Sunken Forest biome, while on Genesis Part 2, you can find them in the northwest side of the map as a rare spawn. Your best bet when taming a gacha is to build a simple 2x2 pen. You can lead the gacha into the pen using honey, pick it up with a quetzal and drop it in, or by hitting it and having it follow you in. Though this method isn't preferable because damaging a gacha will make it sad, which means that it will not eat right away. Gachas are passive tames. You will need to drop its taming food in front of it and wait for it to pick it up. Once it does, it will immediately eat the food and lick its fingers. When it comes to the taming food, you can feed it almost anything, but high quality structures work the best to ensure the highest taming effectiveness, leading to additional levels once tamed. Through various tests I ran on default rates with a level 150 gacha, I found that the Tech Foundation was the best item to feed the gacha. I tamed the gacha using 100 Tech Foundations and it came out with plus 71 levels, making it a level 221 once tamed. If you don't have access to tech yet or want a cheaper alternative, greenhouse ceilings work the best. 120 of them will get you a gacha at level 219. If you don't care too much about the taming effectiveness, you can easily just feed it stone or wood or just anything you have. It's gonna come out with absolutely trash levels and it's gonna take ages to tame, but you'll have it eventually. A gacha will consume a 20 stack of whatever item you use to tame it. So for the 100 foundations, it will eat 5 times in total. And if you were feeding it those ceilings, it's gonna eat 6. Gachas have the very unique ability to grow crystals on their back. When these crystals are large enough, the gacha will sneeze and they will fall off. These crystals can then be picked up and cracked open for loot. There are multiple different types of crystals that can be produced. A white crystal will be one of its production resources, and if you pre-selected one, it's going to be that. Though it can also be a primitive crystal, which is one of the tiered crystals. There are more tiered crystals, the green one being the ramshackle and the blue one being the apprentice. Back when gachas were first introduced, it was possible to get crystals all the way up to ascendant quality, but it has since been nerfed and capped at apprentice. These tiered crystals will produce items including structures, weapons, armor, saddles, and some other little bits, making gachas very useful to farm up gear. It's worth noting that the majority of this loot is indeed grindable. Every single gacha has 6 different resources it can produce. To see which resources a gacha has to offer, you will need to access the production tab from the radial wheel on the creature. These resources are broken down into 3 categories: common, uncommon, and rare. A single gacha will have a random selection of 3 commons, 2 uncommons, and 1 rare in this layout. In total, there are 23 different resources gachas can produce. 8 are common, 7 are uncommon, and the last 8 are rare, one of which is to be considered a very rare. A gacha's production cannot be passed down via breeding. You can, however, clone a gacha to get identical produce. By default, every gacha will already have the all option selected, meaning it will produce a randomized selection of the 6 resources it can produce. To specialize a gacha's production in a particular resource, you will need to select your desired option. There is a maximum amount of resources you can yield from one single crystal. Everything in the common section is 120, uncommon is 60, and everything in the rare section, not including the element dust, is 30. The element dust itself is 180. Gachas have different moods that can influence their taming and crystal production. There are a few visual cues that you can use to identify what mood a gacha is in. When you look at a gacha's face, you can see that there is a clear difference in its facial expression when it is happy and when it's sad. A sad gacha will also refuse to look at the player, and the particles on its back will be dark like this. A gacha will become sad if it's in the presence of another gacha of the same gender. So if you're looking to tame a gacha, you'll probably want to kill the other one or move the one that you want to tame. Gachas will also become sad if you hurt them. The effect of sadness on a wild gacha will make it so it will not eat, which means that it cannot be tamed in this state. And the effect on a tamed gacha will reduce the amount of times it will eat, and greatly reduce the quality of the crystals, meaning they won't produce the the maximum amount of resources. If a wild gacha you're trying to tame is sad, you can easily reset this by either leaving render distance or logging off. Or you can just wait around 5 minutes and it should reset. And when it comes to tamed gachas, all you need to do is remove the identical gender and it will instantly go back to happy. To ensure that they don't go into their sadness mode, you must keep identical gender gachas at minimum 12 foundations in spacing apart for a horizontal plane. But if they're facing each other like this, it can be 10. I think this is because their hitbox is really only the main part of the body, not the face. And when it comes to vertical spacing, they need to be separated out by 18 walls. But bear in mind, this goes from the exact top of the gacha, so technically it's 22. Gachas love snow owl pellets. When they eat them, they receive a buff which increases the quality of the crystals they produce. For the resource crystals, it will increase the yield, and for the tiered crystals, it will give you higher quality loot. When producing crystals, a gacha will always eat the pellet first to activate the buff. Then it will eat some food and then produce a crystal. But there is a rare chance that the gacha will not eat the food but still produce a crystal off of the buff. You'll know a gacha has the buff active when you see these bright and colorful particles on its back. Your best bet is to have several snow owls in front of a gacha puking up the pellets when they need to. The gacha will automatically pick them up. Gachas have an additional stat. They have access to crafting skill. This stat is not affected by imprint buff, but mutations can land on it to buff it. This stat obviously works a lot differently on gachas than it does on survivors. Their crafting skill actually affects the crystal quality, meaning that if you have better crafting skill, you're gonna get a better crystal. If your plan with a gacha farm is to focus on resources, you will want at minimum 160% crafting skill. This will ensure that your crystals are coming out with the maximum amount of resources possible. Once you reach this point, you can focus any additional levels into its weight stat. But if your plan for your gacha farm is to focus on loot, you want to keep pumping into the stat or maybe even trying to stack some mutations up onto it. The next cap is around 260%. At this point, you've pretty much met the maximum probability that you will get a tiered crystal. When it comes to what the best food to feed your gacha for crystal production is, there are a lot of different opinions. Some people opt for just stone. It's easy to get in abundance and doesn't require any crafting. Some people actually craft things like pipes, war maps, and foundations. And some people grow plant species Y traps. At the end of the day, it's all about your own personal preference. All of these items will still yield you crystals, it's just some require more effort than others, and the ones that do require more effort will produce them quicker. Personally, I've always just used stone anyway. It's really easy to get, and I just think it's the easiest way to do it. And that's not a wrong opinion, because I'm saving time and not having to craft all these different structures constantly. Because gachas do eat 20 stacks of these things. So you can't just feed one war map, you'll have to feed 20 at a time. Though if you're feeding raw resources like stone, they will eat 100 to produce one crystal, not 20. When you are feeding a gacha, make sure that you do combine some owl pellets in with this food, because you want to obviously get the best crystals possible. Regardless of whatever you want to feed your gacha, when you're stocking it up with all of the items, you will probably cap out its weight pretty quick. Once you've done this though, you can drop the rest of your items right in front of it and it will pick them up. I want to quickly just mention a couple other things about gachas. If you put them beside rocks or trees or just anything, they will passively harvest that stuff. And you can put them on wander to get them to walk around and collect that stuff. But bear in mind, they do eat it, and they'll leave crystals everywhere. Alright, well that's pretty much it for gachas. They are fairly complicated creatures, but hopefully this video has helped you better understand them. If there's anything that you felt that I should have probably mentioned, please let me know down below and I'll try to either update the description or pinned comment with that information. But if you did enjoy this video, go ahead, do me a favor, hit the like button, really just help me out. And if you've watched to this point, then clearly you like the content, you should probably subscribe. I know it's been a long time since the last Dummies video, and I do plan on trying to do them a little bit more regularly. Just some of the ones that I do want to tackle are just so big, and maybe I should think on a smaller scale. But if you have any ideas for Dummies videos, do let me know down below. Also, check out the Mutations for Dummies if you haven't already watched it. It's a pretty good video according to the comment section. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye.